Good morning. Happy Thursday once again. Another week has rolled by, and I am so glad to be here with you. If you're watching live or watching the replay, be sure to pop in the comments. Let me know that you're watching. I always appreciate that. Also, feel free to enter any questions or participate in the chat if I say something throughout this episode that that resonates with you or gives you an idea. Share it in the comments. I'd love to have conversations. So, what is happening this week? Well, this week was a light reading week for me. So I didn't really have the time to devote to reading like I typically do, but also I had a hard time finding a book that I really felt worthy of sharing with you. And you might question the one that I am going to share with you in a minute, but like I said, it was kind of a light-hearted reading week, a light week, nothing too intense, and you'll see what I mean here in just a moment. So our first book that I'm going to share with you is one. Remember how I said that my oldest son a couple weeks ago that he really enjoys science fiction? Well, this is one that I could kind of get behind too, because let me show it to you. If this works. How Not to Get Eaten by Ewoks and Other Galactic Survival Skills by Christian Blavelt, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. So kind of a fun read, a little behind the scenes of photos and different things throughout it, but it also has tongue-in-cheek little advice. So if you ever find yourself on the Millennium Falcon or somewhere out there in intergalactic space, this will help you out. There are sections in here when you travel about new tastes. So it's telling you all about the food that you'll find. Then there's a section here on, let me get it out, about, I like this, dealing with idiocy. Watch out. And here's the picture. I believe, get me if I'm wrong, is this Jar Jar here, down here, about ready to fall? So dealing with idiocy, it says, some well-meaning fools just can't help falling into trouble, whether it's getting zapped by a power coupling or being beaten up by a pit droid. Try to be patient with them. One day they might save your life. And there are other pieces of advice, such as culture shock and awkward situations. The beauty of the galaxy is that no one is exactly like you. That's also the challenge. And it tells you how to deal with different ones, like the Ewoks and Tusken Raiders and Genosians. And then this one would be very helpful. Hopefully you would never find yourself in this situation where you're there. What to do if you've been eaten. If you have followed the advice in this chapter, this should not happen. But just in case it does, and it gives you a roadmap. See that? What to do if you've been eaten. So hopefully that is not you. So today's episode is all about travel and destinations, and this one is the fantasy travel, obviously. The Star Wars, is a lot of fantasy, but there are different types of travel too. So I thought we'd talk about that, and especially having come out of a year of lockdown and closed down and hibernating in our houses with COVID, a lot of us have been dreaming of travel again, right? The fun type of travel, vacation travel, not just business travel that we might have to do. And this next book that I'm going to share has to do with travel, but at first sight, you might not think that it does. This is a cookbook. It's the Gooseberry Patch's Blue Plate Specials book. And the subtitle says, Recipes Your Family and Friends Will Love the Most, Inspired by Diners Coast to Coast. So the cookbook breaks it down by regions of the United States. So there's the New England region, there's the South region, there's the West Coast, and I have tried several of these recipes. My family loves all of the recipes in here that I've made. I haven't quite made each and every recipe, but I've tried from each of the regions. And what I like about this cookbook as well is the inside, there are little sketches and drawings for each one. See that? And then at the bottom, there are little sayings and tips and pieces of advice. And so I just pulled out a few that I would share with you today regarding travel. This one says, don't pass up national parks on your next road trip. Many offer daily activities for the whole family, including guided hikes and wildlife tours. Best of all, most are free. And even during COVID, this has, for the large part, at least the national and state parks around us, they have remained open, of course, with precautions in place. But we have tried out several ourselves, and it's amazing what can be so near your backyard and you don't even realize it. So much to explore and discover. So I encourage you to do that, and even take a day trip. Go if you live near a state line, go into the next state and find a state park there and go explore. This quote I thought was good. Stop worrying about the potholes in the road and celebrate the journey, by Fitzhugh Mullen. This one says, is another quote, if you don't know where you're going, you can never get lost. Love that. That's by Herb Cohen. This was just a little factoid that I thought I'd throw in here because I thought it was interesting. It says, did you know that some diners would determine the price of the Blue Plate Special, which was their daily special, by popping a balloon containing a tiny piece of paper with prices ranging from a penny to 25 cents? Wow. Can you imagine going into one of today's diners and then popping a balloon and you only having to pay 25 cents for the whole plate of food? How awesome would that be? But that's kind of a neat idea. Of course, it would startle a few people whenever that balloon popped, wouldn't it? And then another quote that I'll end on this book with, travel is 90% anticipation and 10% recollection. I like that. That one's from Edward Streeter because, we do anticipate our vacations. We, make plans and we go through all the guidebooks and tour books and look things online and maybe speak with travel planners. And we're just so excited about all the things that we're going to fit into our packed schedule, right? And then when we get home for years afterward, it's, recalling those memories that we've made with our family and our friends. So that is, that's two types of travel that I've covered today, the fantasy and then the anticipated travel vacations. But then, of course, there are life's travels, those daily travels that we find ourselves in, right? And there are quite a few, but 4 I'm going to talk about today. And the first one is, when we're just daily going about minding our own business. That's a journey in and of itself, isn't it? Some days it's harder than others to put that step forward and keep going. But, sometimes we're going along and something suddenly just appears in our path and changes the direction that our life is going, right? We're suddenly veering into a different destination. And I was looking at the Bible this morning, and the thought came to me about Simon of Cyrene, and that story occurrence is found in Luke chapter 23, verse 26, and I'll just read it quickly. Now, as they led him away, which is Jesus, they laid hold of a certain man, Simon a Cyrenian, who was coming from the country, just coming along, walking along, and on him they laid the cross that he might bear it after Jesus. Wow. Talk about a direction change, right? He wasn't seeking it. He wasn't planning for it. It happened to him, and his life was never the same after, I'm sure. Then there are those times whenever during life we are told to go a certain direction, or we feel we're supposed to go a certain direction, but we don't want to go that direction, right? We dig in our heels. We do anything that we can to go the opposite way. And that, of course, reminded me of the story of Jonah, which you can read, the book of Jonah in the Old Testament. God told him, go to Nineveh. He didn't want to go to Nineveh. He didn't want the people there to be to hear that they could repent and be saved. He didn't want them to not get the judgment he felt they deserved. So he was going to go the opposite direction, and he was going to chart his own life. And if you are familiar with the story, it does not go well. And he ends up, in the end, going to Nineveh and doing what God told him to do in the first place. But he could have saved himself a lot of time and trouble had he just followed that path the first time. Then there are those times when we're going along and we know that we're required to do something, and so we're going, but it's a hard road, right? We're not begrudging it necessarily. It's just hard. And that brought to my mind about during the census with in Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7, Mary and Joseph are needing to go up to Bethlehem. Sorry, it escaped me for a second. Needing to go up to Bethlehem for the required census. So, she's still with child. She's not yet given birth. And so that long, hard trek to get to Bethlehem to do the census. So that was, again, in Luke chapter 2, 1 through 7. And let me see if I can find it here really quickly. It's a very short read. If I can get there we go. And it came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This census first took place while Quirinius was governing Syria. So all went to be registered, everyone to his own city. Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, who was with child. So it was that while they were there, the days were completed for her to be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And of course, that is the birth of Jesus. And the last type of travel and destination I'm going to talk about is, of course, our desired destination. And hopefully each of you desires to one day reside in heaven. And there's only one way to get to heaven. And God provided such an amazing, amazing way for each of us to do that. But it just requires one thing, and we can find that in John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. So it just a recognition and a belief and acceptance in Jesus, and a turning from our sins to have a relationship with Jesus. It's much more than just knowing about him. It's about knowing him. And you can get to know him much better by reading the Bible. I encourage you to look at the verses that I shared with you today. Again, that last one was John 3:16. And if you have questions, reach out to me. I'll be happy to speak with you or find a local pastor. But yeah, just keep your eyes on that eternal destination. That's my encouragement to you as you go about with all the other travels and destinations that you have in your life. So that's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. And if you are watching the replay, put in #replay and let me know what your thoughts are. I welcome them. And again, I welcome suggestions for future episodes. I will continue to do these on Thursdays, 10 a.m. Eastern, here on Facebook and over on YouTube as well. I have a channel over there. Be sure to follow and subscribe me at each of those so you don't miss an episode. And also be sure to take a look, if you are a writer, at my news site, DaileneBickle.com. Finally got that up and going. And let me get that ticker off of there. But yeah, so lots of writing resources there for you. Lots of help, as well as I'm building up my blog, still transferring different ones over there to help you. So yeah, feel free to go there, and also feel free to join my Ink and Impact group if you're a writer. Would love to help you there. Join a community of fellow like-minded writers where we encourage each other. I share industry tips, and we have occasional guest speakers on different topics related to publishing and self-publishing your book. So have a wonderful week, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.